The first thing you notice when the gates slam behind you isn't the sound. It's the silence that follows. A silence so thick it crawls down your spine and settles in your stomach. That was my first night inside. The air smelled of rust bleach and sweat. The guards barked orders like we weren't men anymore, just bodies to be stacked and moved. I kept my head down, swallowed the knot in my throat, and told myself I'd get through this sentence the way I got through everything else, alone. Then they shoved me into cell 214. And there he was, sitting on the bottom bunk, back against the wall, muscles cut from stone, a scar curling just under his jaw. He didn't look at me right away, just flicked his lighter, flame kissing the edge of a cigarette he wasn't even supposed to have. When his eyes finally did rise, they were sharp dark, like he could see through skin and bone to the truth underneath. "You're new," he said, voice low, gravel dragged across asphalt. I muttered, tossing my bag onto the top bunk. That earned me the faintest smirk. He took a drag, exhaled slow. "You won't last a week." I ignored him, climbing up, heart pounding louder than I wanted it to. Something about his presence filled the small cell, pressing in from every corner. He didn't have to move, didn't have to raise his voice. He owned the space. The lights went out at 2,200 sharp, the clang echoing through the block. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence. But it wasn't silent. His breathing below me, steady, calm, was all I could hear. I told myself I hated him already. The arrogance, the way he looked at me like I was prey, the way my chest tightened when he spoke. But hate shouldn't feel like this. Not like fire under the skin. Not like fear twisted with fascination. Not like the start of something I wasn't ready for. That night, as the prison sank into restless sleep, I realized something terrifying. My sentence had just begun, but my real punishment was him. By the second week, I had learned two things about him. 1. The guards respected him more than they feared him. 2. The other inmates feared him more than they respected him. He had a name everyone whispered, but never said too loud. Some called him the Wolf, though I never asked why. Maybe it was the way he moved. Silent, predatory, like he was always 3 steps ahead. Maybe it was a scar along his jaw, the kind you don't get unless someone wanted you dead. Me, I just called him Trouble. And yet, I couldn't escape him. Not just because we shared a cell. The guards liked to pair us for detail. Kitchen shifts, laundry, even yard cleanup. 2 birds with 1 stone. One of them sneered once. The quiet rookie and the wolf who keeps him in line. I hated it. Or at least, I told myself I did. The kitchen was the worst. The clang of trays, the stink of overcooked beans and bread gone stale. We stood side by side on dish duty, the hot water stinging our skin, silence pressing between us. "You scrub like you're trying to kill the plate," he said one day, barely glancing at me. Maybe I am. That smirk again. Always that smirk. Save some of that fight. You'll need it. I wanted to snap back, but instead, I found myself stealing glances at him. The way the muscles in his arms shifted as he worked. The way his eyes narrowed in thought, always scanning, always aware. It infuriated me, how he seemed untouchable. How nothing broke through that calm exterior. Until the yard. We were on cleanup duty, hauling trash bags from one end of the yard to the bins. Most guys ignored us, but a few didn't. 3 of them blocked our path, grins sharp as blades. "Wolf," the tallest one drawled. "Didn't think we'd see you hauling garbage." His eyes flicked to me. "And who's the fresh meat?" I felt my pulse spike, but before I could answer, the wolf stepped in front of me, not with anger. No, he was too controlled for that, but with a stance that spoke volumes. "Move," he said simply. The tall one laughed. "Or what?" I don't know what happened first. 1 second, there was laughter. The next, the tall one was on the ground, clutching his stomach, gasping for air. The wolf hadn't even broken a sweat. The other 2 backed off fast, dragging their friend with them. The wolf didn't spare them another glance. He just picked up the trash bag again, as if nothing had happened. I followed, heart hammering, adrenaline flooding my veins. "You didn't have to do that," I muttered once we were out of earshot. "Yes, I did." His tone was final, no room for argument, but I couldn't let it go. "Why? You don't even like me." That smirk flickered again, but his eyes, God, his eyes, were something else, something I couldn't read. "Maybe I don't," he said softly, "but you're mine. They don't touch what's mine." The words hit harder than a punch. My throat went dry, my chest tight. I wanted to ask what he meant, why he'd say something like that. But I didn't. I couldn't. That night, lying on the top bunk, I stared at the ceiling again. The air was thick with silence, broken only by a steady breathing below me. I told myself it was just protection, just territory, nothing more. But when the lights went out, I found myself listening for his breath, counting the spaces between them. Like each inhale and exhale tethered me to something I didn't want to admit. And for the first time since I'd been locked up, I wasn't afraid of the dark. Because the wolf was there. It wasn't long before I realized prison doesn't just break bodies. It exposes truths. And some truths are harder to face than others. One night, a fight broke out near the yard. I was trying to stay invisible, hands tucked, eyes down, when one of the bigger guys, Rico, decided to take a swing at me. I didn't even have time to react. The punch slammed into my ribs, knocking the air out of me. Then the wolf was there. I barely saw him move. He was in front of me, blocking the next blow, the other inmate stumbling back. He grabbed me by the shoulders, shoved me behind him, and the fight dissolved before it even began. By the time guards arrived, Rico was nursing a split lip, and the wolf was standing over me like nothing had happened. "You okay?" His voice was quiet, almost gentle. I nodded, but I couldn't meet his eyes. My ribs burned, my pride bruised worse than my body. "You shouldn't hide," he muttered, almost like a warning. "Not here." I swallowed. "And you shouldn't save me." "Maybe I like it," he said softly, almost under his breath. That night, lying on my bunk, I felt a storm inside me I couldn't name. Part of me wanted to crawl into his side, let him hold me, let him be the anchor I didn't know I needed. Part of me wanted to push him away, tell him I didn't need anyone. I didn't push him away. The days bled together. Every meal, every drill, every shift in the kitchen. Our shoulders brushed, our hands grazed, and I felt it, the slow, magnetic pull that was impossible to ignore. He never made a move, not in the daylight. But at night, when the lights went out, the cell shrank to the size of our secrets. I would lie awake, heart hammering, counting every breath he took, and sometimes he would shift on the lower bunk, letting his hand brush against mine, just barely, and a touch would leave fire crawling up my arm. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned, propped myself on one elbow, and whispered, "Why do you do this to me?" His dark eyes caught mine in the dim glow of the small prison light. "Do what?" "Keep me awake. Make me feel like this, like I want things I shouldn't want." He didn't answer right away. He just moved closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. His voice was barely audible. "Because you're mine, and maybe I've been waiting for you to notice." My chest seized. "Yours?" "Yes. Don't fight it." We didn't touch it first. Just breathed, inches apart, letting the words sink in. But the tension was unbearable. My hand twitched, almost reaching for him, and I thought he would stop me. But he didn't. Instead, his hand found mine, fingers intertwining, the warmth of the skin igniting something I'd never felt before. And just like that, the line we'd been dancing around shattered. The next days were a slow dance of stolen touches and heated glances. We were careful, too careful to risk the wrong eyes catching us, but reckless in the way that matters, behind closed doors in the quiet, dark corners of the prison. I learned things about him in whispers. The scars weren't from fights with other inmates. They were reminders of mistakes he carried alone. And he learned things about me. My fears, my guilt, my need to belong somewhere, with someone who saw me as more than just another prisoner. One night, after the block had gone silent, I felt his hand on my cheek. "I've done time," he said softly. "But with you, I'm serving it with my heart." My breath caught. I wanted to laugh at the absurdity, cry at the honesty, and kiss him all at once. I did the last one first. The first kiss was tentative, searching, like we were both afraid it would shatter. But it didn't. It ignited. We tumbled onto the lower bunk, limbs tangled, hearts racing. Every touch was fire. Every sigh a confession we hadn't dared speak aloud. I felt him everywhere in my skin, in my chest, in my mind. And in that moment, the walls of the cell, the guards, the world outside, they all disappeared. Afterwards, lying pressed against him, I realized that the sentence I feared wasn't prison. It was never being with him. When the morning came, we parted with the faintest smiles, knowing the world outside would never understand. But we didn't need it to, because in that tiny cell, in the stolen moments between lights out and dawn, we found a love worth every second of the sentence. He had done time, and I served it with my heart.